I was like, oh God, all right, here we go. And I couldn't stand him at first. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to cover Natalie and Shayne of Love is Blind Season 2.
Hey, little sassy. There we go. It took a little bit.
I'll be looking at their behavior as a couple and individually and draw some conclusions about possible coping mechanisms or childhood experiences. I'll also be giving them some tips on how they could heal and have really good, healthy relationships in the future. So Natalie and Shayne turned out to be one of my favorite couples on season 2 of Love is Blind. Don't judge me. I found them so interesting to watch. When I think about Natalie and Shayne as a couple, I visualize Natalie as like this peaceful lake.
I think it's like times like these where I feel like, was this fate, if that makes sense?
And then when I envision Shayne, I just see this like storming ocean with like waves and unpredictability.
I love the energy I get from people. Like, I just can't sit behind a desk all day and just look at an Excel sheet. Some of these guys are very good at that, but like me, I need to be in front of people. I need to feed off their energy.
Just very opposite in like their energy levels. I believe the thing that attracted Natalie and Shayne to each other was their kind of similar playfulness and this kind of a lightness to their attitude. Yes, they could have serious conversations, but there was also a lot of play and teasing going on that I think is vital for both of them.
Okay, it looks good. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
This is me and Natalie's first real date.
Natalie and Shayne both value family. We saw that especially with her father. Natalie has a really close relationship with her father.
But isn't this what you always wanted for me?
Yep. Somebody who cares for you, somebody you love,
Yeah.
of course.
And I could see it with Shayne and his mom. Like those two have a really, really tight bond.
Love you, love you, love you.
So in those ways, I found that Natalie and Shayne were a really good match. And in some ways, they were a really terrible match. What was more challenging for Natalie and Shayne's relationship was their difference in love languages. So to me, it was very obvious, I think to everybody, that Shayne's love language is words of affirmation. All the time, 24/7, hit me, hit me.
Dude, you give me the words of that, man. My ego goes through the roof. Like, go.
I feel ya.
Natalie's love language is not words of affirmation.
I just show my love differently.
I would say on her ranking of love languages, words of affirmations would be like way at the bottom. And, you know, for Shayne, it's like up here and he needs it like an IV drip. And Natalie is just like not important to her and also kind of unfamiliar to her. So that's really where they clashed. Another way that they're not matched is their trauma response. So when they had an argument or an uncomfortable situation, Natalie, to me, took on the freeze response, where she just kind of stops talking, kind of shuts down.
I know, I'm just like shutting down during it right now.
And even her face kind of loses all expression. She's just kind of on standby mode, like maybe her brain is even going blank. Whereas with Shayne, his trauma response is flight. So we see him leave multiple times.
I'm done.
So their trauma responses are very different, which would make it challenging having discussions or arguments within the relationship because one person would kind of stay and one person would leave. Talking about them individually is where it gets really interesting. Let's start with Natalie. Natalie is really calm and has an even energy, and it's also really playful and humorous.
I'm smiling all the time. Like there's an extra step in my skip. No, that's not right.
I love her self, what is it? Depreciating? Deprecating, no. Deprecating. I really liked her self-deprecating humor. Natalie really struggles with words of affirmation. She would say, like, oh, this is really gross. Like, I gross myself out hearing myself say that.
He like fulfills it. It actually grosses myself out. Like, who am I?
And that's what got in the way with her and Shayne. This discomfort while expressing herself verbally or while expressing love verbally might come from a childhood where either her mom or dad didn't really express themselves in that way. In the show, we did hear her dad say a lot of verbal things to her that were complimentary.
Of all the things I've done in my life, being your dad, my greatest achievement yet.
So I would think it's more with her mom, that there's that reserved, that maybe those words of affirmation aren't said as regularly. So maybe it was something that Natalie just didn't grow up with, so she doesn't feel comfortable with. And it's something new for her, and especially then getting a partner who really relies on that, having to kind of step up her game. And she grew a lot in the show, like being able to freely express her love for Shayne and her feelings for Shayne.
But I feel now like you're just like a part of me. Like I know now what it feels like not to just care about myself. Like everything I do now, I think about like you.
For Natalie to continue to heal and grow, I would suggest just practicing words of affirmation and just getting more comfortable with expressing herself verbally and just reassuring herself that nothing bad is going to happen if she allows herself to be vulnerable and if she expresses her feelings. When Natalie learns to express herself more easily using words, she'll be able to help her partner, her future partner as well, to understand situations better. Now let's talk about Shayne. Shayne has caused quite a buzz on the internet, with a lot of people labeling him as a narcissist. And do I agree? Let's see. Judging Shayne based on the first few scenes, I judged him as what he judges himself as, a tool.
I think I'm a huge tool, absolutely, 100%, and I own that. That's fine, I get it.
I was like, oh God, all right, here we go.
Wait, what are you wearing over there right now? Give me your outfit details. This guy is just killing it.
And I couldn't stand him at first. So we see this guy who's obviously like so seemingly confident about himself, like.
I feel fantastic. You know what, I didn't think my confidence would go any higher, but it did. I'm kidding.
He's loud and high energy. He's kind of all over the place. His laugh, his voice, his eyes. Like, it's a lot. Shayne is a lot. I have a feeling growing up, a lot of people told him he was too much. So that's where his kind of protection, like, well, if I label myself a tool first, then you won't get to, where that kind of comes from. The more I got to know Shayne in the pods, the less I felt irritated by him and like his cockiness and like his energy.
At the same time, I have a really kind heart and I really am passionate about just life and who I am. And I feel like there's a lot more to me that, you know, meets the eye.
But I was like, oh, this is actually quite a sensitive guy who values family, who values marriage, and who has quite a soft heart. And just as I was starting to like him, he kind of ruined it.
I'm sorry.
Where Shayne immediately goes into the defensive and ends up kind of switching things around and kind of blaming things on Natalie.
And if you think I'm a dick, I feel like that's kind of weird, no offense, but why am I getting like, I guess like beat up about? It's like.
And not really taking ownership for anything. Eventually, he goes into flight response. And he's done that a whole bunch of times. He flights, when he feels backed into a corner, when he feels so uncomfortable, like he just runs away.
I'm done.
Seems like he really doesn't have the skills to stay calm, stay centered, and just speak from his heart. I kept getting the image of like a little boy who gets scolded like you did something wrong and being like, well, if you wouldn't have put the milk on the table, then I wouldn't have spilled it. Instead of just saying, I'm sorry I spilled the milk on the floor. I believe in childhood, if Shayne's mom or dad were mad at him, I think that verbal, like, you did something wrong for Shayne, who's such a words of affirmation guy, would have been so hurtful to his existence because words is what he thrives on. So if his mom and dad are all of a sudden saying, you were bad, you were a bad boy spilling that milk off the table, to him it's like, I am not loved, I am not loved, where are my words of affirmation? So I think that's why he would like, no, I didn't, or like, no, it's your fault. Like, don't make me bad, because if I'm bad and you tell me I'm bad, I lose your love. And Shayne is so close to his mom. They have such a sweet relationship and such like an intimate, close bond. I think it was probably the worst thing in the world for Shayne if his mom was mad at him. So that's where I think his triggers came in with Natalie. I don't think he's a narcissist at all. I think he's a little boy that doesn't know how to communicate as an adult yet.
I know.
Another way that he's like a little boy is like kids want everything, right? They want all the toys. So like if a kid has this toy and then another kid plays with this toy, oh, all of a sudden I want this toy. You can only have one toy. Oh, but I want both toys. Now, what do you think this cup and this pencil represents? That's right, Natalie and Shayne. For Shayne to say, I've chosen Natalie and Natalie is my girlfriend, was so hard for him, again, because he just seems like this little boy that wants both of these things.
Dude, just be honest. Is it yes or no? You're making it way more
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
That's all you had to say. Okay, there you go.
Which makes sense. I don't think he's a narcissist because of it. He's just like a little boy that he needs some help learning adult communication and coping skills. Some healing tips I have for Shayne is for him to get really comfortable with who he is. He may seem like he's really comfortable and confident, but I think underneath he's really insecure, and you can see that by his reliance on words of affirmations from others.
Do you think I'm pretty?
Do I think you're pretty?
I think I'm pretty.
Are you fishing for compliments right now?
Mm-hmm.
So Shayne needs to learn how to give himself those words of affirmation, how to tell himself you're doing really well, you're a really good person. So for his future relationships, that would be a lot of pressure to consistently praise him with words of affirmation. So he's gonna have to do some work and bring that into his next relationship and be able to take care of himself and not expect his partner to take care of him and tell him how special he is. Another tip for Shayne is to be aware when he starts to get angry, when he starts to get wound up, because there is so much evidence of it for other people. When we see him, we see how his body language changes, how his jaw clenches, how he twitches, how he moves. That's all illustrating discomfort. That's all illustrating like an elevation in his emotions that are going to end up, it'll end up leading to that defensiveness and then to the flight. So the more Shayne notices those sensations, that will help him stay calm and grounded and not escalate into the defense and into the flight. Big recommendation for Shayne is meditation. This will help him build the foundation for the day and be able to just come back to calm.
You are the one for me who had a kid or three.
Oh, like 6.
Unfortunately, Natalie and Shayne don't end up getting married. They do have a lot of respect and love for each other, and you can tell that in the reunion.
Does it feel good though to hear people say how much they enjoyed your relationship and how?
Of course, it feels fantastic, and
They really care for each other. So it's too bad they didn't get to work out.
Because we're here to kind of get to the heart of the matter, I have to ask you, how did it feel watching?
I think their differences are a little bit too extreme, and not being able to come together and have those conversations, those healthy conversations that need to happen in order to make a relationship work. So too bad for Shayne and Natalie. All right, there you have it, Natalie and Shayne. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for part 3 where I cover Danielle and Nick. Very triggering couple for me. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Please leave me a comment below and let me know what you thought. What do you think about Shayne, narcissist or not? What are your thoughts? And if you want to talk about your own struggles in relationship, please send me a message. The link is down below, or leave me a comment and I'll get in touch with you. Take care. Bye-bye.